CM Punk suspended. Triple H furious. Zilla Fatu, the man whose explosive interview ignited the fuse that blew the entire WWE roster apart. In one single, seismic 24-hour period, the best in the world went from WrestleMania 42 frontrunner to suspended WWE superstar. And the interview that started it all has changed every single calculation heading into the grandest stage of them all. Triple H does not drop the hammer lightly. When the chief content officer of WWE makes a suspension official in the weeks directly preceding WrestleMania 42, it means something happened that crossed every available line simultaneously. And Zilla Fatu's interview was the match that lit the fire that burned it all down. We are breaking all of this down right now. Suplex Rumble Nation, welcome back. I am your host, and today we are covering the most significant administrative development in WWE's 2026 calendar, a development that intersects storyline consequences, real authority decisions, and the most explosive interview segment the wrestling world has witnessed this year into a single, completely extraordinary news moment. CM Punk is suspended by Triple H because of what Zilla Fatu said in an interview. And the chain of events connecting those three facts, the specific sequence that began with a microphone, passed through a corporate decision, and arrived at a suspension that threatens to remove the best in the world from the WrestleMania 42 card, is the most compelling WWE story of the week. Subscribe if you are new. Notification bell immediately. Drop a comment right now. Was Triple H right to suspend CM Punk? This community is going to have strong opinions, and I want every single one of them. Let's go into every extraordinary layer of this together. Let's begin where this story begins, with Zilla Fatu's interview. Because understanding exactly what the Bloodline's newest and most physically extraordinary member said and why those specific words produced the specific chain of consequences that ended with Triple H suspending CM Punk is the foundation of everything else we are going to discuss today. Zilla Fatu's debut on WWE programming established him immediately as one of the most physically imposing, most naturally compelling presences the current roster possesses. We covered the debut on this channel with the attention it deserved. The son of the legendary Omega, the member of the most decorated family in professional wrestling history, arriving with the specific combination of genetic excellence and personal preparation that makes him a generational talent. But what Zilla Fatu demonstrated in his interview, the verbal dimension of his WWE presence, revealed something additional, something that the physical debut alone could not fully communicate. He has a voice. Specific, direct, completely unfiltered in the specific way that the most compelling professional wrestling characters are always unfiltered. The kind of voice that does not calculate its effect before speaking, that simply says the thing that is true from its own perspective with the complete commitment of someone who has decided that honesty, however combustible, is always the correct approach. The interview itself, conducted in the specific, relatively unstructured format that allows performers to speak beyond the prepared promo material of scheduled segments, gave Zilla Fatu the space to say things that the usual WWE production environment might have shaped differently. He talked about CM Punk, specifically, directly, with the specific quality of someone who has been watching the best in the world's behavior since his own WWE arrival and has formed opinions that he sees absolutely no reason to keep private. His assessment of CM Punk, of his conduct toward the Bloodline, toward Roman Reigns, toward Zilla's own family, was delivered without diplomatic qualification or competitive courtesy. And somewhere in that interview, in the specific, completely unguarded directness of Zilla Fatu saying exactly what he thought about CM Punk, information was shared. Characterizations were made. Statements were delivered that the best in the world received not as competitive trash talk within the accepted parameters of professional wrestling rivalry, but as something that crossed a personal line requiring a personal response. CM Punk responded immediately, in the specific, completely committed way that CM Punk always responds to things that cross his personal lines. And that response, whatever specific form it took in the immediate aftermath of Zilla Fatu's interview, is what put the situation in front of Triple H. CM Punk's response to Zilla Fatu's explosive interview was in the specific, completely predictable way of CM Punk doing exactly what CM Punk does when provoked beyond the threshold he accepts, immediate, direct, and completely without the diplomatic calibration that the WWE institutional environment prefers its performers to employ. Because CM Punk does not do diplomatic calibration. The best in the world's entire professional philosophy is built on the specific rejection of the comfortable management of things that should be said directly. His career, from its independent roots through every significant WWE chapter, has been defined by a willingness to say the thing, do the thing, cross the line that other performers identify and walk carefully around. Zilla Fatu's interview gave CM Punk a specific target, a specific provocation, a specific set of statements about him, his conduct, and his relationship with the Bloodline that, from CM Punk's perspective, required an answer that matched the directness with which the question was asked. Whatever CM Punk did, whatever specific response he delivered to the content of Zilla Fatu's interview, it exceeded the boundaries that WWE's management structure considers acceptable within the parameters of professional wrestling rivalry, not the competitive physical confrontations that the programming accommodates and often encourages. something that activated the institutional response mechanisms that WWE reserves for situations where the line between competitive conduct and something more problematic has been crossed. The specific nature of CM Punk's response, what he said, what he did, in what forum and with what specific content, is the detail that makes the Triple H suspension comprehensible. Because Triple H does not suspend performers for competitive intensity or even for the heightened personal heat that the best rivalries generate. He suspends performers when conduct moves beyond those categories into territory that the institution cannot simply manage through creative response. CM Punk's response to Zilla Fatu's interview moved into that territory. And Triple H, whose role as Chief Content Officer places him as the institutional authority whose decisions shape the WWE landscape, had to respond. Triple H's decision to suspend CM Punk in the weeks directly preceding WrestleMania 42, with the grandest stages card implications fully understood by everyone involved, is the most significant authority decision WWE has made in the 2026 calendar year, and it deserves careful, complete analytical attention, because Triple H suspending CM Punk is not a simple administrative action. It is a statement made by the person who holds the most significant creative and institutional authority in WWE, at the most consequential moment on the annual wrestling calendar, about the specific limits of what the institution will accommodate regardless of the competitive or commercial significance of the person being suspended. CM Punk's value to WrestleMania 42 is drawing power, his championship program significance, his role in what was shaping up to be one of the grandest stage's most anticipated match cards is not small. The commercial and creative cost of removing the best in the world from WrestleMania season programming is real and significant. Triple H made the suspension decision anyway, which means whatever CM Punk did in response to Zilla Fatu's interview exceeded the threshold beyond which commercial considerations become secondary to institutional standards. The Chief Content Officer looked at what had occurred, weighed the WrestleMania 42 consequences, and decided that not suspending CM Punk would communicate something worse about WWE's institutional standards than suspending him would communicate about the company's WrestleMania card. That calculation and the decision it produced tells us everything about the severity of what CM Punk's response to Zilla Fatu's interview involved. The suspension itself has immediate practical consequences that the WWE Universe needs to understand. CM Punk is removed from WWE programming for the duration of the suspension. His scheduled appearances, his championship program obligations, his WrestleMania 42 positioning, all of it exists in a state of suspension alongside his active status. The road to the grandest stage, which had been the most clearly defined of any performer on the current card, has been interrupted by an institutional decision whose resolution timeline is not yet public. WrestleMania 42 without CM Punk, if the suspension is not resolved before the grandest stage, is a significantly different event than the one the wrestling world was anticipating. The Bloodline's reaction to CM Punk's suspension to the news that Triple H had dropped the hammer on the best in the world in direct consequence of Zilla Fatu's explosive interview is itself a significant story within this story. Because the suspension of CM Punk does not simply remove a competitor from the landscape. It changes the Bloodline's WrestleMania 42 calculations in specific ways that the family, as strategically sophisticated as any collective in professional wrestling, is already processing. Roman Reigns received the news of CM Punk's suspension with the specific, carefully contained expression of the tribal chief and the presence of information that is simultaneously advantageous and complicated. Advantageous because a suspended CM Punk is a CM Punk who is not on WWE programming, building the specific, relentless, psychologically sophisticated campaign against Roman that the best in the world had been conducting. Not competing, not cutting promos, not executing the specific strategic pressure that had been making Roman's WrestleMania 42 preparation more challenging than anticipated. Complicated because a CM Punk who is suspended, who is sitting outside the WWE environment with nothing to do but focus his extraordinary competitive intelligence on the specific injustice, as he perceives it, of the suspension itself, is a CM Punk who may arrive at WrestleMania 42 with a version of motivation and focus that the usual pre-WrestleMania build could not have produced. Zilla Fatu's reaction was the most revealing of any Bloodline members, because the interview that started all of this was his. And the specific chain of events that his words set in motion, from CM Punk's response through Triple H's decision to the suspension, is a chain that Zilla Fatu is now examining with the full awareness of his own role in initiating it. Whether that examination produces satisfaction, the specific satisfaction of someone who achieved a significant outcome through a single interview, or something more complicated, is a question the coming weeks will answer. The WWE Universe's reaction to CM Punk's suspension has produced the most passionate, most divided, most genuinely engaged community response of any single development in the 2026 WWE calendar. And that specific quality of reaction, not uniform, not simple, but genuinely divided between strongly held positions, is itself a mark of how significant and how legitimately complicated this situation is. The portion of the WWE Universe supporting the suspension, those who believe Triple H made the correct institutional decision regardless of the WrestleMania 42 consequences, are responding from the specific position of people who understand that competitive conduct has limits. that the WWE landscape, for all its passion and physical intensity and deliberately cultivated edge, operates within institutional parameters that exist for legitimate reasons, and that CM Punk, whose history of crossing institutional lines is well documented, finally crossed one that the institution correctly declined to simply manage around. The portion of the WWE Universe opposing the suspension in this portion is significant, vocal, and completely committed in its position, argues that Zilla Fatu's interview created the provocation and that CM Punk's response, however it exceeded institutional parameters, was generated by specific conduct that the suspension fails to adequately account for. That punishing the response without equally addressing the provocation produces an institutional outcome that is incomplete at best and unjust at worst. Both positions are held with the specific intensity that CM Punk's involvement in any controversy generates, because the WWE Universe's relationship with the best in the world is never neutral, never passive, never characterized by moderate, easily revised opinion. He generates the specific quality of passionate, committed investment that makes every development involving him a genuine community event. Drop your position in the comments right now, Suplex Rumble Nation. Full verdict. Was Triple H right? Let's see where this community lands. The WrestleMania 42 implications of CM Punk's suspension are the most significant practical consequence of Triple H's decision, and they require careful analytical attention because they affect not just Punk's program but the entire grandest stage card. WrestleMania 42 was being built with CM Punk's championship program as one of its emotional centerpieces. The specific, deeply personal, psychologically loaded rivalry between the best in the world and Roman Reigns, fueled by Zilla Fatu's debut attack, by Solo Sikoa's Chicago Street Justice, by the accumulated heat of the most compelling WrestleMania 42 rivalry on the card, was positioned to deliver one of the grandest stage's most anticipated matches. Punk's suspension places that positioning in jeopardy. Not certainly because the suspension's duration is not yet confirmed and the WrestleMania 42 timeline may allow for resolution and reinstatement before the grandest stage, but in jeopardy. In the specific, uncomfortable way that having a primary WrestleMania program's central performer removed from programming in the weeks before the event is always uncomfortable. The creative alternatives, the specific adjustments to the WrestleMania 42 card that become necessary if CM Punk's suspension extends through the grandest stage are themselves significant story developments. Does Roman Reigns' WrestleMania program adjust to a different opponent? Does Zilla Fatu's role expand to fill the competitive space that Punk's absence creates? Does the suspension itself become a storyline element that generates its own WrestleMania narrative? All of these questions are being asked simultaneously by the WWE creative structure, by the roster members whose own WrestleMania positioning is affected by the Punk program status, and by the WWE Universe whose WrestleMania 42 expectations were partially built around a match that is now in question. Prediction time, Suplex Rumble Nation. Triple H has dropped the hammer. CM Punk is suspended. WrestleMania 42 is approaching. Zilla Fatu's interview started it all. Where does this go?